So I was at St. Clement of Rome this morning, and they started their procession in with 3 little kids dressed as wise men. And I made a fatal mistake. I went up and engaged the wise men in conversation. And I got down real low, and I said, well, what are you guys? You're the little wise men today. And they were like, yes. And then I said, well, what made you pick the gift that you picked? Because one said, I have frankincense, I have gold, I have myrrh. And one kid holds up this, I guess it was frankincense, I don't know what it was. But he holds it up to me and he goes, I picked this because it looks like tequila. And I said, oh. I said, is that one of the gifts that the wise men brought to Jesus? And he goes, that's what we had for Christmas. So, you ask, you question, you get an answer. I learned my lesson this morning. So we're going with gold, frankincense, and myrrh here today. Tequila is a gift for later. But I want to talk about a meditation from St. Ignatius's spiritual exercises. When people think of the gift that St. Ignatius, the founder of the Jesuits, gave to the world, we often think, especially in the United States, of education, of schools, right? But the real charism of the society is this spiritual exercises, this way of making a retreat that Ignatius wrote and perfected and gave to so many people. The schools, it's a secret, don't tell anyone, but the whole point of the schools is to have a secret way to share the spiritual exercises with lots of people by going on retreats and the spirituality. Our schools, our sports teams, all that stuff that we kind of think about when we think about Jesuit schools are really just secret Jesuit talk for bringing people into a way of discerning with the spiritual exercises. And one of the meditations in the spiritual exercises is called the meditation on the 2 standards. And what it talks about is meditating on this idea of this battlefield, kind of laid out. And Ignatius asks us to contemplate this. And he spells out what this battlefield looks like in pretty vivid detail because he wants us to actually contemplate what side of this battle we're on. And what he says is that on one side of the battlefield is Satan, the evil spirit. And he's sitting on this dark throne, and it's smoky, and there's fire, and it's very unpleasant, and there's a sulfurous smell. And arrayed out before him on this dirty plain that's full of dead grass and isn't very pleasant, arrayed before him are all of these demons and minions that he likes to send out throughout the world. And what Ignatius says is that when the evil spirit sends out these evil spirits, these demons throughout the world, that they use 3 things to capture us, the hearts of faithful men and women. First, they use riches, and then they use honor, and then they use pride. And Ignatius says that they set these traps for us to bring us on to Satan's side of the battle. Riches and honor and pride. First, these evil spirits seek to make us want to seek wealth in our life, riches, so that the more that we seek, the more that we want to seek. The more houses, the more cars, the more money, the more stuff, will slowly get roped into the battle to be on the side of the evil spirit. After riches, we seek honor. We want people to know about us. We want people to talk about us. We want our name to be out there. We want to have the top job. We want to have top billing. And after we get these riches, then he'll suck us in through honor, and then finally through pride. Through being wealthy and then having honor, our pride will become so strong that we'll be fully in on Satan's side, and Christ won't be able to call us onto his side of the battle anymore at all. Then Ignatius asks us to contemplate the other standard, the standard of Christ. And it says that on that side of the battlefield, Christ is sitting on a simple throne, and he's dressed in a simple manner. He looks beautiful, lovely to set your eyes upon, and arrayed around him are men and women of goodwill. And it says that he sends his saints and other men and women of goodwill out throughout the world to work against these forces of evil by bringing poverty, insults, and humility. And he says this is the way that we work against the trap that the evil spirit sets for us with riches, honor, and pride, is by rather seeking poverty, insults, and humility. He says poverty is important, and some of us or all of us are called to spiritual poverty, to a sort of simplicity of spirituality that focuses on Christ. And in fact, some of us may be even called to actual poverty. referring to religious and other people. He says, and the more that we can focus on that poverty, we push back against that desire to be wealthy in the world. The next way that we fight against riches and honor and pride is by seeking humility. We seek to be humble. Rather than having our name be out there and be well known, we rather humble ourselves and place ourselves at a lower position, taking the lower end of the table rather than sitting at the front of the table. And finally, we fight against the work of the evil spirit by seeking insults, by recognizing that others are going to make fun of us, give us a hard time, ridicule us, and then instead of pushing back against that, we accept it, because that helps us to grow in spiritual poverty and in humility. This is a beautiful meditation from Ignatius, and it really kind of spells out for us this idea of what it means to be a man or woman of goodwill. What are we being called to in our life, and how is the work of the evil spirit seeking to rope us in through riches and honor and pride, and how, as we, people of goodwill, good Christian men and women, how can we use poverty and humility and insults to keep ourselves from falling into those traps of the evil spirit? This is set up perfectly in Matthew's gospel today between Herod and the three kings. Herod, who came into his job as king of the Jews through nefarious means, who basically took over and forced the Romans to give him this job because he came from a wealthy family, seeking to continue to enrich his family. Herod, who was the king of the Jews, and was only upset because he heard that these magi were coming looking for someone else who said that he was the king of the Jews, threatening his position, threatening his money, threatening his wealth, and who then, in his pride, sought to find the location of that king so that he could go and pay homage to him himself, rather end his life and keep the kingdom for himself. The Magi, on the other hand, work exactly in the same way that Christ tells us under the banner of Christ. They come in humility. They bow before the King. They bow before Christ. They bring him gifts, giving up their material wealth, giving up that which they don't need in favor of this king, and taking insults from Herod, insults from the chief priests and the elders, when they go home by a different route to avoid revealing where Christ is so that they can protect this newfound infant child king. This star that is the symbol of our Epiphany prayer today is a guide towards that banner of Christ. That star led the Magi to a life of poverty, humility, and insults so that they could serve Christ. They recognized in that star that humility, or that honors and riches and pride were leading them nowhere. Rather, by going on a long journey, subjecting themselves to a difficult situation, being willing to get down on one knee before this infant, and giving up the riches that they had, they were indeed respecting that symbol that they saw in the sky. That symbol, that star, is a symbol for us today. It's a reminder that each and every day we are called to be under the banner of Christ, just like Ignatius tells us in the spiritual exercises. We are to fight against riches and honor and pride so that we don't fall into the snares of the devil and end up serving under the banner of the evil spirit. That star is our guide. We are guided today, 2,000 years later, in the same way that the Magi were guided back then, to seek insults, poverty, and humility, so that we too can come forward, can receive the body and blood of Christ into ourselves, and can be transformed by that light. Amen.